Hey, I'm Ethan.
Hey, I'm Mike.
I watched the first half of Cocktail.
I watched the second half of Cocktail.
And this
is the other half.
Cock of the Month.
No. We're not watching a month of cock movies as much as Ethan wanted us
I
to.
really wanted to.
Yeah,
we didn't even get to
but
the
I put
good
my-
movies I was looking for that were on like X-Hamster.
But
Like,
I put my
come on.
foot down on that cock and I was like, we're not doing any more cock movies.
And you know what? That worked for me.
Yeah, I did. That was enough for Ethan.
That was enough for me. So instead, we're watching this movie called Cocktail.
Yeah.
Which you brought up randomly and was like, what about Cocktail?
It's a movie that's like been in the back of my mind for like so much
How
of
did
my
it get
life.
there?
Well, it's like one of Tom Cruise's first movies, and I feel like I guess not everyone, but I grew up with this image of like Tom Cruise behind a bar in a really fun like nightclub, spinning bottles and like making cocktails for people. And I was like, in my head, I had an idea of what this movie was. It was like, oh, it's like Tom Cruise. He works at a bar. It's probably like a Saturday Night Fever situation. And it's like you just see him and a bunch of other like cocktail guys, and they're all trying to be the best cocktail mixer in like a bar. I like had this and I was like, oh, it's probably really funny, like him and like a bunch of other like, you know, mixologists, and they're all trying to spin bottles like the best. And then in the end, Tom Cruise ends up being the best at spinning bottles, and it's really just like
That's kind of what I thought it would be, even though I didn't really know anything about it. But like, you pitched this to me as like, it's Tom Cruise. He's in a bar. He's making cocktails. And I'm like, well, that's of course the only way this movie could go, right?
nope.
No.
No.
It's fucking weird.
Nope. No.
It starts off that way, and then
I'd
it
hope.
goes real weird.
It's sort of weird how many of these movies, like, I think this movie was in the zeitgeist for the time. It's probably like a pretty popular film when it first came out.
1988 is when it came out.
It reminds me of, and I bring up Saturday Night Fever as another example of this, where like I think people remember an idea of what Saturday Night Fever is, but they don't know.
They don't listen. If you haven't seen Saturday Night Fever, don't go watch it.
Or if you haven't seen it in a while, like
you kind of
have
forget
an
about the
idea.
real bad parts of that, because I saw the movie and I
We
don't
saw
remember.
it.
I saw it a long time ago, and I was like, okay.
Yeah, we
And
saw
then
it
I watched
recently.
it again, and I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah, you just think it's about fucking like John Travolta
Being
dancing
goofy,
disco.
and like the first half of the movie, funniest movie I've
The
ever seen in my
best.
life. I thought it was the greatest movie. It was so good. It was so funny.
we
It
were
was
like,
weird.
we got to show this to people.
I was so
and
excited
then
to watch this, and then the last half happened. And I was like, "What the fuck
This movie
is
took
this?"
a hard turn.
I wish we watched it for the podcast in some ways, because it would have made some great content. But regardless, I had
But
a great
this-
time. Well, I was gonna say I had a great time watching with you, but I didn't.
I had a great time watching the first half.
The first half
too.
was so funny.
And honestly, I kind of like that we watched the second half also together, because I feel like if I had watched it alone, no one would have believed me. Like, I wanted to go on this trip with another person, you know?
Yeah, that's fair. It did make it all slightly more
Because
tolerable.
it's great to look at another person and go like, this is happening, right? Like I'm not fucking
We're not
crazy.
losing it. Like the first half of the movie was one
Was
of the funniest
nuts.
things I've ever seen.
Yeah, what the fuck is
And
happening
then
now,
it
right?
suddenly turns into this horrifying assault fest.
Yeah, exactly. So this movie
Anyway.
is similar, where it's like I'm assuming the first movie is what everyone remembers, which is like he's having fun at a bar, spinning drinks, and then it really goes off the rails, and it's not very much about cocktails at all after a while.
I started wondering where the cocktails are going to come back in at the end of my
Yeah.
half. I was like, is this what this movie's about? It's weird. It's a
Mhm.
weird movie. I don't think it's very good.
I don't think it's great, no, but it's a very interesting movie because
yeah, I
it's
have a
like.
feeling we're going to have a good time talking about it.
I hope so. I hope it's a good talk, because otherwise it'll be a very boring episode.
So Tom Cruise got a cocktail shaker. And he
Whoa.
shook it around like a lot.
That's
And he, like,
crazy.
then he opened it up and there was a drink inside of it.
Whoa.
And it was blue.
Have you ever drank a cocktail before? I've never drank
I've
one.
never drank a cocktail.
Never.
At all. We're definitely.
I'm more about beers.
I'm a beer boy.
I'm a beer boy,
'Cause what
but
if the
no Bud
cocktail-
Light.
See, when I was younger, though, younger. Yeah, I guess it was when I was younger.
Yeah, now you're an
Makes
old
it sound
man.
Like, it makes it sound like I'm a little kid. When I was 6
When I was-
years old, I only drank Pabst Blue Ribbon.
And then you became a
I'm
man.
gonna become a man with hair on my chest.
Yeah.
For a long time, I only drank beer when
It's
I went
more
to bars.
cost effective.
It's not only more cost effective, but it also more consistent. Because like if
Mm.
you go to a bar that doesn't have like specialty cocktails
Yeah.
or anything, it's like this shit might suck. Like you
that's
ask for
true.
anything, it could suck. But like I
That's
feel
true.
like recently more bars are getting into like, here's our set drinks. They're pretty good. You can order these and they'll be at least a good time.
Right,
And they
right,
usually
right.
are. Like I haven't had like a stinker, like a big straight up stinker. I have one where I'm like, oh, this is okay.
Yeah, yeah.
But not one where I'm like, ugh, like this is actually actively annoying to drink. So I'd just be like, oh, beer's good. And now I'm
Right.
like, poor times, I'm like, yeah, beer's good. But, you know, I got more into cocktails. I thought that was cool. You know,
Yeah, and you can make it at home.
and you can make them at home. It is very true, but you can't be as fancy.
There's a whole artistry to it.
There is a whole
seeing
artistry
the
to
guy making it. It is genuinely kind of impressive. I don't see him do it very often, but you see like Tom Cruise spinning a couple bottles around his hand. It's
You should
pretty
see
nice.
my half, man. That's all that movie
I honestly
was.
wish I fucking had. I
was
feel like I
very
saw
weird.
the worst half of the movie.
It's very weird because it made it seem like that's all cocktails were, is the showmanship. Which
Maybe it was back in the day,
Maybe.
right? We don't know what it was like back then.
I don't know what drinking was like back then. Like they could have all been
This is-
drinking jet fuel.
This is probably the first time anyone had ever seen a cocktail being made in Middle America.
Oh, you might be right.
You know?
before it was just straight whiskey or like rum and coke or something, and that's
Because
it.
this movie takes place in like New York and some other place, some island, Jamaica, and that's it, I think.
Yeah.
So it takes place in like either a place that's like a destination or New York, like a metropolitan area.
That's
you know,
true.
They're not going to like Kentucky
No.
or
that's very
Nebraska.
true. No.
You know, so
there's no
so
business out
those
there.
people who live there are seeing this movie and they're like, "Wow, that Tom Cruise sure can spin a bottle." And they're
That must be a
impressed by it.
cocktail, right?
Must be what a cocktail is. Yeah. I mean,
Anyway.
I'd go to a bar like that. Like,
It seems like a fun time. But it's one of those things where I feel like this is the equivalent to nowadays when you see something cool on Instagram and you go to it and you're like, oh, it looks really cool, but it's
give me my
fine.
cocktail.
Yeah, and the
Yeah.
cocktail you taste like, okay, this is okay.
This is pretty all right. Yeah.
But I'm here for like the
And you're
vibes and the photos.
And you're like sitting there for like 10 minutes while he's putting the fucking thing together. And you're just like, fucking just finish it. Like, give me the cocktail.
yeah,
You know?
yeah.
Chill the fuck out. I want my
You don't
cocktail.
need to do all this. It's okay.
Yeah. You don't,
Fine.
you're not saving time.
No.
Anyway, so tell me how the movie begins.
The movie starts with a cool 80s ass font.
Oh yeah, it does.
All about it. Love the images in this. Then it comes with a cocktail.
Mm-hmm.
Tom Cruise is riding around. His name's Brian. He's running around with all these boys.
His boys.
They got some sirens going on.
Sirens. Like
It
women?
seems like they took a no. This seems like they took a cop car or like the red light off a cop car and pull over a Greyhound bus.
These men are fucking crazy.
These men are crazy. I don't know if they even
They
appear
are-
in your half.
No, but I mean, I see Tom Cruise in my half the movie, and he's fucking nuts
Yeah,
too.
yeah. So imagine a bunch of them.
yeah,
They pull over a Greyhound bus and he gets inside the bus and goes to wherever he needs to go. So he just gets discharged out of the military, basically. It.
oh, okay.
He arrives at New York, and it's really funny because this is very confusing. Because he arrives in New York and he says, "Hey, Mike, look at this. This city, it's all gonna be ours." And he's all about reading. And it's this random little kid sitting next to him. And he just tells this to his like baby.
Oh,
I thought it was his kid for a second. It's not.
it's just a kid.
It's just some random kid. And I was very confused by that. But he's like very much all about wanting to get rich. Like he
Yes.
keeps reading books about how to get rich, making money, how to become a millionaire in whatever times.
Back in the day, tech bros were cocktail bros.
This is exactly. This is
Yeah. And the best way to get rich is to sling cocktails over bars.
that was not his first choice.
Oh, what was his first choice?
We'll get to that.
An astronaut.
Astronaut, yeah. So he goes back to this place called Pat's Tavern. His uncle Pat is there. He owns the place. He gets a beer. He's like,
He's the coolest dude in the movie.
Pat's cool.
I like Pat. I don't
Pat's
know
all
if he
right.
does anything in the first half of the movie, to be fair. But in my half of the movie, he rocks.
He just kind of sits there and kind of crushes his dreams. So, normal
Wait,
old man
who
behavior.
crushes whose dreams?
Pat crushes Brian's dreams.
Good. Fuck
Yeah,
that
I mean,
guy.
where it ended up, it probably was a good thing.
It's probably for the best.
At first,
yeah.
I'm like, fuck this guy. But now I'm like, oh, Pat maybe was right. But, Brian's like, oh, flat beer from Rusty Pipes never stays the same. And Pat's like, hey, man, I kept your apartment. I've kept some things for you. I can help you get a job. He's like, no, I don't want a job like that. I'm looking for a different job. He's like,
What
good
kind of
enough-
job?
Good enough for your day. He's like, I want one where you get rich. Pat's like, you know how you get rich? First off, pay me $1 for that beer you're drinking. He's like, what? But I just got back from serving my country. He's like, fucking pay $1.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, you know how my secret is? You know what my secret is for getting rich? I'm like, also, by the way, Pat, not really rich. He just
No.
owns a business. He says, I don't buy a drink for anyone. He tells like a random person, like, hey, have I ever bought a drink? He's like, nope, never. Even when the Mets won in 1969 or whatever. He didn't even buy a drink for a single person.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, here's my advice to you, Brian. Make no friends, trust no one. This is Uncle Pat. And I'm like, damn.
I like Uncle Pat.
Very cynical. Really, Mike? You don't want to trust anyone? You don't trust me?
I trust you.
Okay.
I like Uncle Pat because he's an ideal, but definitely not someone I can live up to. You know?
You wish you could not
I
trust your
wish
friends.
I could be. I wish I could be like Uncle Fats.
I wish I could serve
Look how
flat
happy
beer.
he looks.
He is an idealized person living in
Yeah.
this shitty ass bar in Queens, New York.
this balding catcher's mitt that runs a bar in New York, a dive bar.
We all have dreams, Mike, and they're all different.
That's true. That's true.
Anyway, so Brian's like, I don't know. That sounds like not a lot of fun. He's like, you want to have fun? Go to the beach. He's like, yeah, well, I just want to make $1 million. So he goes around and he hustles. And he tries applying to all these advertising.
He wants to be
marketing
like
agencies.
he wants to be like American Psycho.
He wants to be like American Psycho. This movie has a lot of yuppie stuff in it. So I think this is the same kind of season of like the yuppies are coming around and doing all that. So, but no one wants to hire him because he doesn't have a degree. Every single person rejects him because they're like, we just need a degree, man? Like, go to school first or whatever.
Right.
And he's like, fine.
How old is he supposed to be, by the way? I know he just came back from the military.
I think he's like 22, something like that. Like, pretty early, pretty young.
Right.
So he goes to a bar, and he's like, hey, the bar guy's like, bar's closed. And the manager's like, we're not open. He's like, I'm looking for a job. And this guy, Doug,
I hated this fucking guy.
He killed the movie for me, man.
He's the worst.
I hate him so much.
There's like an angel on your
supposed
shoulder,
to hate
and that's
him.
the uncle, and there's the devil on your shoulder, and it's fucking Doug.
Doug
Get him
is
out of here.
the worst person I've ever met. Like,
Doug is the guy I hope I never turn into.
Doug is just like, he thinks he knows everything.
and he doesn't know shit.
He
He just got
shit.
lucky.
He's
just
so
got lucky.
annoying.
Yeah, he's the worst.
He's not even lucky.
Well, he wound up
you're right.
getting lucky
He wound up
eventually.
getting lucky once.
Yeah.
But like, he fucking sucks. I hate him so much. Anyway, he's
I
like,
hate him.
hey, you want a job here, I guess? Sure. This is the Upper East Side. You better get ready. And he's like drinking an egg. Like, he's putting eggs in his drink and just drinking it raw. And he's like, yeah, I guess I'm ready. So we smash cut to Brian getting overwhelmed in the back of the bar. There's like 1 million people there screaming. They're like, I want this. I want that. He's like, okay, what do you want? We want this. And the waitresses are like, we want this. And he calls one of them a bitch. And she's like, oh my God. Because she kept saying, another term for rum and coke, but he didn't know what that was.
Oh.
And he eventually got
Sounds
it.
like you don't either.
It was a Cubano? Cuban? It's Cuban something. Cuban Libre.
Okay, got it.
Which is rum and coke.
Oh, okay.
And he's like, guys, just told me that. And then someone asked, like, can I get a martini? He's like, wait, what's in that? And I'm like, you're really not qualified for this job. But he works so hard, and he's really trying.
Mm-hmm.
And he even has to wring the socks out of at night when he's done because they're so sweaty, which is weird. I'm like,
I thought it was maybe like he kept dropping drinks on his feet or something.
oh, maybe that could be it.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking, I'm like, you don't sweat from your feet that much. There's not a lot of sweat glands there.
I think he's just dropping drinks down there.
He might be dropping drinks.
Yeah.
So he gets the job, even though he's like, the waitresses hated me. And he's like, yeah, you get a job. It's fine. Wait until you give them crabs. Then you'll really know hatred. And I'm like, what
This
the
is the
fuck?
beginning of the movie having a really bad read on what it's like to be a woman.
Or who the fuck this guy is.
Yeah.
Doug is. Doug sucks.
Doug sucks. Doug more like Slug.
Slug man. So at the night, he's going to classes for business, but it's boring. Oh, Brian's so bored by these classes. These professors, they don't know anything. But so he really is excited by all learning from Doug, and Doug's teaching him all about how these drinks work and how to like throw a shaker around and how to make it like really fancy. And he's already getting much better. And the ladies already love him because he's handsome.
He's very handsome.
He's a handsome guy, and he's really good with mixing. He's really good with his hands. You know what I'm saying? He mixes
What does
it
that
around.
mean?
That means
He's really good at jacking off?
he's really good at flicking that bean.
That's right.
He can flick that bean like no one else.
He can spin that bean.
He can spin that bean.
He can throw that bean
He
in
can
the
shake
air.
that
Catch
bean
it
up.
in the other hand.
He can do all sorts of stuff with that bean.
That's right. That's right.
But he's like, listen, Doug, I'm only here part time. All right, I'm going to school. And he's like, school, you learn everything you can from here. I don't know why he sounds like Ozzy Osbourne.
Yeah, that's
but
not.
basically,
yeah.
he's I fucking hate this guy.
He's the worst.
So he's like, okay, that's cool. Also, he's like, you want to drink? He's like, I don't drink alcohol. I don't drink cocktails. He's like, oh, you only drink beer. Beer's for breakfast. You got to have cocktails, bro. You got to get into drinking. I mean, to be fair, if you're a bartender, I feel like you should at least taste
You should
the
taste
cocktail,
it.
but
Yeah.
whatever. He's being weird about it. The thing is like he could have said something much more normal.
Yeah.
Such as like,
But he's not normal.
yeah, what if you just want to try a cocktail because you want to drink? He's like, no, you're a fucking pussy for drinking beer. You
Yeah.
got to drink a cocktail. And it's like, okay.
Heineken.
Tastes like piss. Pabst Blue Ribbon.
It's the king of beer.
The king of cocktails.
That's right.
So Brian has a task to write an obit of himself from one of his classes, and the professor says everyone wants the fast track, everyone wants to, get there quickly, but there's no get-rich-quick schemes. They never work, which is all he seems to be reading.
He wants
like,
to
he
be,
keeps
yeah.
reading all these books that sell him this idea of you can get rich really quick.
Mhm.
And he writes his obit, and he reads it out loud to Doug, and he's like, I'm going to be a billionaire. He died a billionaire with leaving behind his 7th wife, 18-year-old wife, who was just so sad that he died. And it's just like the most dumb, like, capitalist yuppie bullshit I've ever heard.
Yeah, toxic masculinity bullshit. Yeah.
Some girl has the hots for him at the bar. She has a boyfriend. I don't know if he ever comes back into play. I feel like he doesn't. She doesn't. But
I know about Jordan, but I don't think she's probably that.
That's not her.
Yeah,
that's not her at all. Or Coral.
I don't know. Coral is
I don't know
Coral.
Coral. He asked everyone, the professor, for a business plan, and he's just like, all these business plans are terrible. They're so bad.
Is this Trump?
Well, that's funny because he points out one lady, and he's like, she says she burnt all of her husband's food, yet she wants to be the Donald Trump of cookies. And I'm like, oh, this is back when Donald Trump was like seen as a good businessman.
Seen as rich.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. So he wants to. So they actually get to, Brian, he stands up for this. He's like, hey, don't like roast her so much. He's like, oh, you want to be roasted? Well, listen, that's your name, Brian. Oh, I have your thing here. You want to franchise New York bars outside to other parts of America, like the Mall of America. What are you going to bring the stale stench with them? He's like, yeah, well, you can't hack it out there, so that's why you're here. He's like, well, an F for you then. And he gives him an F, and he's like, oh. He goes and he rants to Doug, and he's like, these professors know nothing about the real world. They don't know anything about it. Which, true, sure, yeah.
Some don't.
Some don't.
They don't know
He's
anything
like, yeah,
about
man,
this one bar.
You'll know everything here. As a bartender, you're the aristocrat of the working class. You can find an angel investor or a lady with a ton of money. You can smoosh up with all of them.
Right.
Which I think is kind of an interesting thought. But yeah, I mean, like, people always go to a bar, like, hang out, like, even depending on, like, their social status. They'll go to, like,
they all want to drink.
Bar. They all want to have a little drink and chill out.
But to imagine that, like, you would meet someone, I don't know. I guess I'm not the kind of person that, like, socializes with bartenders as much.
Dude, it depends where you go. Like, bartenders can definitely be very sociable and very talkative to people, and they probably meet.
I always just am like, I don't want to bother you, just like, I'll be friendly, but
I mean, sometimes if bartenders, all depends on the bartender's demeanor, because sometimes they want to chat up, they want to talk, they're like, hey,
that's a
doing?
fair
What's
point.
going on?
I've had some hangouts with bartenders before.
Yeah, it happens. It happens, but it's not every bartender. Some
Not
bartenders
everyone.
just want to do some jobs, and that's fine.
true.
I understand that.
Yeah.
But if you're someone who wants to make $1 million someday. Yeah,
and I'm some hot piece of ass with a ton of money.
Yeah, exactly.
They're chatting me up.
Exactly. So they're fucking drunk and they're running around, and the bartender says, "Star, I'm gonna make you a star. I'm gonna make you a star. But stars don't puke in public." And then he falls down the flight of stairs in the subway.
Doug,
but he's fine.
Of course, he's invincible.
He's invincible. So they start talking about wanting to open up their own place. Shit, I forgot to write down what the story was called. It was the story they wanted to make it called like cocktail. It was something like cocktails and story or something. Like, it was a fucking bad name.
I'm gonna look this up, but I think I know what it is.
Yeah. But they're like, I don't know how to get money to fund this, and Doug, of course, the pessimist, is like, you won't get money. You got to figure it out. And then they're trying to make drinks, but before that, there's a shot of them working what seems to be a TGI Fridays. Is where they're working at.
Wait, are they working at? Is it actually?
I rewound it. It's definitely a TGI Fridays.
Does it have all that shit on the wall?
I think it's like the original version of it.
Oh my god!
Like, in my mind, I'm like, is this
the original TGI Fridays?
And is this the story that he wanted to pitch, which was franchising a New York bar out to the rest of America, which is what I feel like TGI Fridays might be.
Probably, honestly.
Yeah, I didn't really think about it, but it is very similar, like a New York, like trying to emulate a New York bar with a bunch of weird shit on the wall.
That's also a franchise.
Yeah. And I'm like, maybe that is it.
The name of the cocktail bar is called Cocktails and Dreams.
Cocktails and
Terrible
Dreams.
name.
Terrible name.
Terrible name.
I don't want to buy any fucking dreams. I'm here to get rid of them. I'm here to get realistic and drunk.
That's right.
Anyway, they make drinks in unison and sync with the song. And like, it's really impressive. They do like with the song, they make drinks, they shake at the same time.
See, this is the shit I'd imagine
very cool.
from the movie.
Some old bald guy's like, hey, come work at the salon here. You guys are working this dump. You'll be famous in like 2 weeks. And they're like, okay.
They do
so they work at this place called the Cell Block. And it's a really cool bar. It has like a dance floor at the bottom, and then it has like a whole bunch of like, like a cell block. It has the kind of like a
prison,
balcony around the sides that people stand in and hang out and like look down on people.
What would be the Yelp review for this place? So we got the TGI Fridays. That's probably like a 3.
That's a 3. I think this cell block, I think it used to be a 4.5, but I think it's dropped down to 3.5 as time has gone on.
Ouch.
I think it has. Like, it used to be cool, and the owner's trying to get that vibe up. So he hires these 2 guys to work at the bar, and there's a guy who shows up, and they shine a light on him, and he's just at the top of like the stairs, and is like, "I am the yuppie poet," and he just starts making all this poetry about like, basically like, capitalism is good. I have money and you don't, and money actually is make you happy. And one thing he says is, art is better if it costs more money, and then. Fucking the 2 bartenders, Doug and Brian, are like, "Hey, well, what you got? You want to buy some drinks?" And everyone's like, kind of whatever. And then Brian stands on things like, "I am the poet bartender."
Oh, he stole from the yuppie.
Exactly. He's like, he has a whole thing about like, we do everything you can, and we have we engage with social lubricants and blah blah blah. And he says, "You are all devoted to every flavor I got. But if you want to get loaded, why don't you just order a shot?"
This guy needs to be like working at a Ren fair or something.
It does feel like that. It feels like that's all showmanship.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Yeah, cool." He kind of like goes through naming off every drink to by the way, and this girl comes up to him and is like, who has like taken his picture, and says like, she goes, "I want an orgasm." And he's like, "How many?" And she says, "Multiple." So he makes the drink and does like a cool dance, and it's fucking weird, man.
What cool dance? What is the dance?
The dance is like making the drink. He's dancing with the drink. He's making the drink while dancing.
I imagine he like made the drink, and then after he was done, he just did like a little
Fortnite
23
dance?
skidoo.
No.
Fortnite dance.
No. He was dancing with the drink.
Okay.
He made it a whole thing.
All right, cool.
And she's like, "Okay, I'm gonna take your picture." And Doug comes in and is like, I taught him everything he knows. He's like, "Oh, sorry, there's no room for you in this picture. Can you get out?"
Ooh.
And obviously he's offended by this, but he's not going to admit it.
No, he's too big a man.
And then, so she takes a picture, and then they go and fuck somewhere. I think her place. They go bang. And she's like, "That's fun. I'm your girlfriend now." And she sees him out in just his bed sheets. By the way, sex scene in this, very weird. It's just like them rolling around a lot and being like,
And this is where Ethan shows his ass and shows he's never had sex before. This is what sex is. This is what sex can be.
It's what it can be.
Yeah, it's not what it should be.
It should be fucking serious.
No laughing.
No laughing. No fun.
No
Only
talking.
sucking and fucking. That's all we're doing here, baby.
Let's get down to business.
Let's go down to business. Cocktail, not cock laugh. All right? We're here to do that.
This is not a cocktail. This is a cock true story. This is cock nonfiction.
God. So she sees him out in just her bed sheets. Like, she's like, "Bye." She opens the door and everything. And I'm like, "Why would you?" Okay, whatever. They're watching boxing. I guess she's now is his girlfriend. Her name is Coral.
Coral. What does she look like? Blonde?
She's got black hair.
Okay, then no, we never see her.
Okay.
Again.
I don't think you will.
She dies.
So they're watching boxing, and fucking Doug has some money on the bet or whatever. I don't know. Ryan's like, "I did some research on how much we can get started. We need like $75K." And he's like, "Oh, how are you gonna get $75K for your new place?" He's like, "But here's the thing. We started in Jamaica." And he unrolls his like. He has like a poster and he unrolls it. And it's like a naked lady with like Jamaica across her boobs.
Whoa.
And he's like, "I want to grab." And Doug's like, "Whoa, cool." And he's like, tries to grab it. And then Brian does a bad Jamaican accent and is like,
"Oh no,
there's no taxes there. I hear people there can make like bartenders there can make like $300, $400 a day, and they're not even good like us. We can make so much money." And this is, of course, Coral's idea. She's like,
of course,
Coral's like, she's like, "I've been there a while, and you make a lot of money." And she's like, "Oh,
right." So wait, her name is Coral, and she wants to go to Jamaica.
Maybe coral reefs? I don't know if they're coral reefs.
There's no coral reefs, probably not. But there is a lot of water.
There's a lot of water.
There might be coral somewhere.
She could start the coral.
Maybe she's
growing.
a mermaid. And she's trying to return to the sea.
That'd be so much of a more interesting movie than what we have.
Cocktail, more like fishtail.
Please, God. Brian likes Coral. I don't know why I wrote that. I don't know if you couldn't tell, but he likes her.
Just keeping us abreast of the situation.
So, like, he's playing basketball with Doug, and this is the weirdest scene. Brian's
I
like,
feel like Doug's really bad at playing basketball, right? Is he bad?
Yeah, he's bad.
Yeah.
Brian's whipping his ass. Like, he bet him, and it's like, for some reason, Doug bets on shit that was like
Doesn't
he's gonna
matter.
lose. Like, obviously.
Yeah.
Anyway, he's like, listen, she's a single person. She wants to get with you, and she's rich. He's like, yeah, she owns all these like a whole brownstone building. Like, she's got a lot of money. She's good. Oh, you want to go with her? Well, she checked the ring on her finger because she's probably cheating on you. She's probably got guys all over that building or whatever, and you can't even see it.
Guy so much.
He's like, it's like, yeah. Well, Doug says like she's gonna do a number on you, and he's like, he's not gonna do a number on me. And she's like, you want to bet? Yeah, $50. She's not gonna cheat on me. And so at work, they're hanging out doing the work thing at the cell place, and Doug, instead of Brian going to meet her, Doug goes up to her and starts making out with her.
Wow. And how does Coral feel about that?
Coral seems to enjoy it, and Coral goes back to Brian and says, how dare you talk about our sex life? It would have only gotten better. And then she leaves. And I'm like, oh.
So Doug was lying to try to like get Coral to like kiss him, I think is what's going on.
Probably.
Right?
Because he didn't
Doug
really
probably
talk
went
about
up
sex life.
That's right. Doug probably went to Coral and was like, yo, Brian says you're bad at sex. You want to fuck? And then she probably was like, what? Brian said that? And then that feels to me what Brian would do.
It's true.
Yeah.
And then Brian's like, what the fuck? And then he goes and punches him in the middle of the bar.
Good.
And everyone's like, what the fuck? And Doug's like, you'll thank me for this one day. You'll thank me for this.
I feel like the lesson of the movie is just like, don't hang out with guys like Doug. Like, they're just going to drag you down and ruin your life.
It sucks because it like feels like you got to trust people, but not too much. Like, you should trust people.
Don't trust certain kinds of people.
There are certain people you probably should avoid.
Yeah,
you know?
like
and,
Doug's of the world.
It's just like, he just did it and he's like, oh, I want to get my $50 back.
I hate him so
like,
fucking
it's
much.
like such a dumb petty thing, and it's like, why? Like, why did he do it? He's just jealous. He probably just,
and honestly,
he has to be just jealous about the fact that she didn't even like want to take his photo, you know?
And it like
because he's not as hot. Because Doug is like a older guy. He's in his like maybe 40s or something.
He's right. We should describe him. He looks like a slug.
He looks like a little slug man.
He looks like a slug guy. He doesn't have a chin.
Very bland.
He's awful. I hate him. He looks awful. I don't know how else to describe him. But it's like,
bad. It's that.
After a while, it starts to reflect poorly on Brian that he doesn't get out of this relationship, you know?
Oh, yeah. Well, that's the thing. He does.
Oh!
So he goes to Jamaica.
By himself.
He goes to Jamaica. He's at a bar working there. Some lady runs up to him and says, like, my friend passed out. And he goes up to her and he's like, oh, my God. No, she drank champagne in the sun. That's not good. It's the worst thing. And she's fine now. And let me get an ambulance. They get an ambulance, put her in there, and she's okay. And so she comes over again, not the friend who got passed out, and is like, hey, I wanted to thank you for what you did last night. And he's like, do you want a cocktail? I got my specialty rum ones. And she's like, no, I want a beer. He's like, my kind of girl. And then it's been years. Like, there's no Doug in sight. Doug randomly appears.
Wait, years? How many years?
Doug appears and says, hey, lady, you want to see a grown man cry? What's up, Brian? What's up? Brian turns around, like, oh, this fucking guy. He smiles. He's nice about it. And he's like, wow, you're not sad about me coming here? He's like, no. It's like, it's been 2 years since we last saw each other. And now I'm back. And Doug, look, this guy, he says to the lady, I still don't know her name. She's a blonde lady.
Okay, I think it's Jordan.
That makes sense. It's like, hey, this guy, I tell him everything I know. He's so good. We love him. But Brian's a believer. I bet you got a self-help book back there. Don't you show me it? And he's like, yeah, I do. I got how to be rich in whatever days.
Right.
Like, he doesn't realize that the door is shut for us. And Jordan's like, oh, I believe maybe he believes you could open it or something. Anyway, Doug is like, what I'm here for. By the way, Doug constantly has this thing called the Cullen, which is last name code.
Yes.
He brings it up all the time, and it's about like the dumbest shit.
It's the worst.
It's basically like the Cullen code says don't. Oh, so like the reason he wasn't sad when he met him was like because Brian puts it back in his face. Is like the Cullen code says never reveal your emotions to an enemy or something like that. This is like, what the fuck is this dumb shit?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Awful. Never be a human being. Yeah. This feels really much like, it feels like a lot of like
he's training him to be American Psycho.
Yeah.
But like in the worst way.
It feels like a Jordan Peterson podcast.
Yes, it does. Doug Coughlin. So Doug says, by the way, the reason I'm here is I'm actually got married and me and my wife are on a honeymoon. He's like, get out of here. He's like, yeah, look. And this is like attractive lady, like hanging out by the beach.
It's a blonde lady, yeah.
Blonde lady. And she's like, yeah, it's true love. And here's the kicker. She's got millions.
She's rich.
Which is kind of what it sounded like Brian kind of wanted to do or was about to do, and like Doug stole it from her, basically. Not directly, but you know what I mean. Like he basically stole that
getting
idea.
what he wanted. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So then it cuts to this Jamaican cover of This Magic Moment. The shit fucking rocks. Such a good cover. It's so fun.
This magic moment.
Exactly. And all the girls are hanging out, and the girls are like,
oh wait, that's not what it sounds like. What does it sound like?
That's what it sounds like.
No, the Jamaican cover?
I see what you're doing here, Michael. I hear steel drums, Jamaican accent. This magic moment. Picture in your head, audience.
Rule 2 of the Callahan Code.
Yeah. Never do a Jamaican accent.
Never do a Jamaican accent. Well, I guess his code would be like always doing Jamaican.
Yeah, it would be always Jamaican accent and wear blackface while doing it. You got to sell it. It's showmanship, baby.
Yeah, it's showmanship. Yep.
Anyway, so yeah, it's funny because the two girls are hanging out. It's like, how long have you known Brian? She's like, only about 10 hours. And they dance. Brian and her, they dance, they make out. They talk about how they're so unique to each other. They go riding horses. They explore Jamaica. They like play on the beach. They flirt on the beach. She mentioned she lives in New York and works there like a waitress. They wrestle. She wins.
Ooh.
Yeah, so they're then now sitting at this place. Basically, it seems like I don't know, like a restaurant,
like a diner,
a restaurant,
like
but it's outside.
Restaurant. Yeah.
And she's like, "Oh, we should get on one of those boats." Like they've been just exploring Jamaica, having a great time. Mm-hmm. He's like, we're all surrounded by millionaires. Like this fucking guy, he's got one of those like cocktail umbrellas. He's like, this guy like just makes these umbrellas. Like that's all he does. Mm-hmm. He's made millions off of that. Like someone made millions off these umbrellas, and like someone made millions off of these little things that hook at the end of your shoelaces. Someone's making those and making millions off of that.
Yeah.
And like we're surrounded by millionaires every day, and that's the end of my half.
Yes. So he just keeps like talking about that. And he's like, I don't want to be a bartender forever, because what's going to happen is the nights are going to go like longer and longer and longer, and the days are going to get shorter and shorter. And it's like, he's like, you only really live in the daytime. That's when you like live your real life. And then in nighttime is when you do your job. And as that starts to like increase, you live less and less of your life. And then you become like,
that's just any job though, bro. That's just any job. Dude. Like any job, you're stuck. You lose your daytime and you fucking daylight savings. You're like basically up when it's dark and leave when it's dark.
And he says he doesn't want to do that. He says he wants to escape that. He doesn't want to do this forever.
Yeah, I love not working too, bro.
Man, I get it. It's weird because the movie's clearly got like anti like Reaganomics vibes, like anti like I don't want to fucking work for a living. But it's like, but he does want to make like
does want to work for a living in a weird way. He wants to work in his own way.
But he also wants to like make a shit gazillion dollars and like not spend it with anybody, like not share with anybody. Like, he's wants to hoard it all, It's that idea of like it's like I don't want to work, I just want to make a lot of money, And it's like that's the dream right there. And she is fucking so enamored by this concept. And so they go and they make out next to a waterfall, and they toss their swimsuits asunder.
Are they naked? They skinny dipping?
We don't see boob and we don't see dick, but they are very much skinny dipping in Jamaica.
You see butts, dude? It's a little Tom Cruise booty?
We do not. We actually don't, because they're in the water. And then they make out next to a little bonfire, and it's pretty clear they had some relations.
Had some relations in the sand?
Yeah.
Boy, oh boy.
Which is not a good idea.
That's not good. No,
that's not great.
No.
Highly would not recommend.
Go back to laughing in the sheets. That's way better.
That's way better.
Way better.
So they imagine what life would be like if they like made a life here, basically in Jamaica. They're like, what would happen if like like you stopping a bartender and like we like made little like trinkets for like tourists and stuff, and what if we had kids? And they're starting to like picture and imagine like a future for them, basically. Wow. And it's like they seem very happy about this idea of like what would happen if they like settle down.
Where's Doug been? I feel like he's gonna appear in the picture soon.
Yep. So
oh no,
next scene is, I just say, this fucking British guy's an asshole. and he's being a dick to
Hold
Tom
on,
Cruise.
he's British?
Isn't he?
I think he's just an asshole.
I mean, I guess it's
What's
interchangeable.
The difference?
Yeah.
Hey, waka waka.
Oxymoron.
He might be British. Yeah, you might be right. I just ignored it because I was just like, that's just in New York. I don't know. When I'm in New York, I'm like, no one has accents anymore.
I'm pretty sure he's
I think
British.
you're right. He is British.
And
I
so
just completely ignored it for some reason.
him and Tom Cruise are like trading barbs, and it's like I instantly can tell that like Tom Cruise, like he's got this whole fucking life ahead of him. You look at fucking like Doug, and you're just like, what the fuck are you like doing? But he keeps saying, he's like, I've got rules you gotta stick to. I married this woman, she's rich, and he's just like, I got everything.
He's like, I got it worked out, but it's because he got lucky.
It's exactly right. And he's just like, I got fucking everything man in the shade. Just gotta like follow my lead. And he's like, look, he's like, I hear that you are dating someone right now. You're seeing somebody right now.
I hear, motherfucker, you met her.
Or whatever. He's like, you are dating someone who is not rich. You're dating someone who's poor, right? And
She works at a diner selling like what's called like concrete pie or something.
And you're
like
gonna
that.
struggle like your whole life. Look at me. I've got everything man in the shade. I married rich. I don't need to work a day in my life. Everything's gonna be great for me, he says. And he's and Tom Cruise is just like pushing it aside. He's like, I bet you couldn't do that. And he's like, because there's two different kinds of people in this world. There's people that sell and there's people that buy. And I'm a seller and you're a buyer.
What the fuck?
And
This guy's so annoying.
He's awful. And he's like, I'll bet you. He says, I'll bet you $50. I'll bet you $50 that you can't pick up that woman over there who's clearly rich and older. And he's like, no, you know, because he's got this woman.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'll bet you couldn't do it. You can't do it. You can't do it.
Guys who are like, I bet you this, I bet you that, are so annoying. You know, like just shut the fuck up, man.
I do that sometimes.
Huh?
Do I do that?
No, you don't do it all the time, dude. I'm talking about like this guy literally does it for everything.
For everything.
Like,
I'm not even a person that bets. I'm usually a person that takes bets.
Yeah, you take bets.
I'm like,
but it's
I'm
like
like
funny...
Rita Moran. I'm like Rita from 80 for Brady.
Exactly.
I'll take a bet.
You'll take a bet. You'll do a bet. You'll offer a bet if it's like a funny thing, but not
this
like
fucking guy.
But this guy's doing
every
like
shit.
Every little thing
Yeah.
is just like a bet. Everything he sees is just a way to opportunity to earn money or like raise the stakes or whatever.
So he's like, I'll bet you $50 you can't pick that lady up over there. And then eventually,
He picks her up and just like, she's so heavy.
that's pretty clever. But no, he goes over and she's like, can you get a beer? And he's like, a beer? Don't you want this? And he makes like this cocktail for her. And then
We spin the bottles and do the whole thing.
does this whole thing. And she's like, I can't remember what she says, but she's not impressed, basically. She doesn't seem impressed. And then she's like pulls out a cigarette and she's like trying to find her lighter. And he like walks away, and then he fucking like does this fucking dumb shit where like he gets like a match box, like a matchstick, like matches, like a book of matches, and lights one of them and like tosses it behind his back, and it lands right in front of her, so she can like light it with it. It's so fucking stupid, but of course,
Is it burning on?
it's burning. Yeah, he does the thing where
How
he
does
like
it
he
happen?
flicks it.
Those matchboxes go out real quick with any air.
It's true, but
you
he figures
win.
he can do it because he's so hot.
Yeah, when you're that hot, I mean, you make fire. So yeah, he's the god of fire.
So he goes up to talk to Doug, and he's like struck out, and he's like, no, I don't think so. And he like turns around, and she like lights her cigarette on his like little like matchstick, and she's just like, hey, come over here, big boy. And he's like, all right, baby. And he goes over, and then we cut, and we see Jordan, and she's like coming up to say hi to him because it's the end of the night, you know, and it's the end of his shift, and she's gonna say hi to possibly the love of her life, and she sees Tom Cruise walking off.
Stupid.
Yeah, walking off with this older lady.
Why the fuck would he
It's-
take this bet?
$50 and
That's
toxic
nothing.
masculinity. I know. I hated this. And she's like kissing on him, and I'm like, okay, I don't like this. This isn't great, but maybe if this is just like a means to get $50, you know. No. He full on fucks her and shit. Like,
Wow.
he full on cheats on like Jordan for nothing.
Yeah.
For $50 and for
Just to
like
prove
the
he can do
appreciation
it.
of a piece of shit, you know? And then he sneaks out of her like place and like goes over to Jordan's, but Jordan has left on a flight to New York. She's gone back.
Yeah. Because fuck this guy.
And it's at this moment where I'm like, Jordan, lives in New York. I mean, I think times have changed, obviously, but like, she must not be like that poor. Like, what does she do for a living?
She works as a waiter.
That's it?
Yeah.
Does she have roommates?
I don't know. Oh, yeah. If she doesn't, then she's probably rich.
Yeah.
But I mean, fucking like Friends and stuff is like,
you're right.
Paints New York as like, it's very affordable.
You're
It's
right.
Like, it's not.
You're right.
At all.
So we meet the rich lady. Her name is Bonnie. And she comes by and she is in love with Tom Cruise.
Okay.
In love with him. Like super infatuated. She's like threatening to suck
But
his
here's the
dick.
thing: is like Doug set him up with an old lady who may potentially be rich, because he has a young lady who's also rich.
Yes.
And so it's like, oh, I still have one up on you, sort of thing,
This is the fucking like megalomaniacal brain of Doug, right? Like nothing is good enough.
No.
He's always better than everybody, but he only does that shit in postures because he's actually unhappy and miserable inside, and he knows he's never going to be good enough.
Yep.
And he knows he hasn't actually. It's like, I hate this shit. I hate it so much. And like, this is what makes this movie not good. I don't like this movie, but it makes it like interesting because it is like tackling this stuff, but not in like a thoughtful
No,
way.
it's not a very clear message. It just seems to be doing it without any sort of purpose.
It reminds me a lot of other movies we've seen through this podcast from this similar time, like St. Elmo's Fire, where it's like, it's like, fucking, or like, what's that other one? Next Stop, Greenwich Village, where it's like, young love, young people making mistakes, and they're
but it
like
doesn't feel real.
late 20s. No, it doesn't feel real.
Like,
But
it feels very manufactured. All these people don't feel like they have actual motivations. I will see this is definitely better than St. Elmo's Fire.
yeah, I agree with that.
Which is weird because that movie's a hit.
So, British guy is meeting up with Tom Cruise after Bonnie has basically like professed her love to Tom Cruise, and British guy's meeting up with Tom Cruise, and British guy's like, hey, my lady love, the person I'm married to, she's gonna set me up with a bar in New York, and I want you to be the head bartender there. And Tom Cruise is like, no.
Okay, so that's too much for you. You do a $50 bet for your fucking ego.
Well, he's like, I don't need to, because Bonnie's gonna set me up in New York, and I don't need you anymore.
Oh my god.
And
so
he's
stupid.
like, and
This is just two guys who marry or are getting in with rich people.
like it's so fucking stupid. And then Doug is like, I'll bet you a very expensive bottle of whiskey. It's actually the same bottle of whiskey from the Holdovers that the very that bottle of whiskey.
That's really funny.
It's the same exact bottle. It's a very expensive bottle of whiskey. It's like $5,000 or something crazy. Bottle of whiskey.
That's crazy. It's retained its same high value
I
all
know.
these years, right?
And so he's like, I'll bet you that bottle of whiskey.
Oh, I guess Holdovers a period
Holdovers
piece,
was
so
yeah,
it makes sense.
exactly. Wasn't a modern movie. Watch Holdovers. He's like, I'll bet you that bottle of whiskey that Ethan is cocktailing over here.
I'm gulping.
Gulp. He's like, I'll bet you this bottle of whiskey that you are going to be working for me you're going to come crawling back to me by St. Patrick's Day.
You're always betting shit.
Always betting shit.
Stop.
And Tom Cruise is like, not going to happen. So we hard cut. We're in New York, and Bonnie's the worst. She exercises in the morning, and she she takes care of herself. All this fucking bullshit.
Okay.
I don't know. But eventually you actually do learn that Bonnie's actually using Tom Cruise more like a fuck toy, where it's like, like a fuck boy, where it's like, you just like stick along with me and we're just gonna like bang, and like I don't really want to like advance your career that much. So what are you looking up over here?
I'm looking at what Bonnie looks like because I never saw her.
Oh, she's got like frizzy hair.
She doesn't even look that old.
She's not that old, but she's older compared to like Tom Cruise. She's like older, but she's not like that old. Like she takes care of herself. She looks fine, for her age. And so eventually you sort of learn that she is actually just sort of like keeping him around as like a sex boy, a fuck boy. We see that we follow like Tom Cruise. He's walking around New York and he sees Jordan happy working in a diner, and he's like, oh, I could have had her.
Yeah,
you fucking could have.
Dumbass.
But you had to have Bonnie because she's rich and she's not advancing career one bit. And he's like trying to like work in advertising, and she's like, I guess she runs a firm, and she's like, I don't want to feel like I'm like, forcing my boyfriend to work at the firm. And he's just like, who fucking cares? You're the boss. Like, doesn't matter. Like, just do it, Yeah. She's just like, I don't want to. And like, I can imagine this movie from her perspective, where it's like, yeah, like you found this guy that you fell in love with in Jamaica. She doesn't know anything about the fact that like he's, cheating, like with her basically, and it's just like, yeah, like she probably has she's a woman. She probably has some kind of like social pressure not to like force this sort of thing. I don't know how long it's been, like it's probably been like a week or two.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it's very long. But this movie also was just like 2 years.
2 years. So, yeah. So they go to an art exhibit. She doesn't introduce him to her friends, which, again, is sort of like a shitty thing to do. And he insults the artists at the art exhibit, and they end up fighting, and he breaks one of the artist's pieces.
Oh, my God.
It's pretty nuts. He's getting really drunk and, like, being really belligerent. He just seems very unhappy.
He's just drinking at the art exhibit?
He's at an art exhibit.
They got bougie-like stuff.
Exactly, where they just, like, yeah, exactly. And so outside of the art exhibit, Bonnie goes outside and is like, hey, you really embarrassed me in there. And he's just like, just break up with me already. Let's just break up already. And she's just like, I don't want to like do this like this. Like, I don't want us to break up in this moment. Like, I'd rather we like talk about this when we're like in better spirits, basically. And he's just like, no, who cares about all that? Like, I don't want to, you're not happy, I'm not happy, let's just break up already. It's just like, it's pretty clear that like Tom Cruise has absolutely regretted this decision and would rather just like be with Jordan at this point, basically. So they break up, and Tom Cruise next day goes to the diner and annoys Jordan. He's just like, hey, I'm not leaving until I apologize. And yeah, and she's just like, and fucking bothering her at her fucking place of work, Yeah,
that's super unprofessional and uncool and unsexy. Let me
yeah,
tell you, this is the least sexy Tom Cruise has ever been.
It's awful.
Except jumping on that couch in Oprah.
Yeah, that was pretty unsexy too. She like dumps food all over him to like get him away, but he refuses to leave. He like waits for her outside of the restaurant for her to leave, basically. And he's just like, I want to explain and I want to apologize. And she's just like, and well, no, he says he wants to explain, and she's like, you have to apologize. And he immediately starts acting dumb. He's just like, apologize for what? And she's just like, I saw you in that woman. And then he's like, oh, you don't understand. So it's like, oh, so you weren't going to apologize. You were just going to, like, what were you going to say?
Yeah,
like,
what's the point of this?
Yeah. And then he's just like, you don't understand. You just don't understand. And she's just like,
I feel like I'm taking drugs as you explain this. Like, the logic of this whole character.
Hey.
These characters make no sense.
Gets worse. So then he's like,
it's not as bad as it seems. You see, Doug landed a rich chick. And that night he bet me that I couldn't do the same.
A rich chick. So you'd go with a woman just because she had money?
No, it's not the money. He bet me that I wasn't good enough to hustle her.
Hustle her? And I was worth so little to you that you could just take some stupid juvenile bet?
No, you see, a guy lays down a dare, you gotta take it.
And then...
This is like a Christmas story. A double dog dare.
You're right.
But then you did it when you were a fucking child.
and then she says...
Brian, how do you think I felt seeing you go off with some woman after the time that we spent together?
Just hold on a second. You were pushing me down there. You were coming on too strong, too fast.
But it is just like, so you didn't come here to apologize.
But like, they were clearly having fun for like at least 5 montages. What are you talking about?
Honestly, and like, you
and
guys
he
seem
came
happy.
on to her. What the fuck is going on?
Absolute bullshit. Absolute bullshit. Like, apology. Not even an apology.
No.
Barely an explanation.
This is terrible.
It's awful. And so he's like, you spooked me then. And he's like, you're not going to spook me again. I promise. And she says, I'm pregnant.
Was he spooked?
Yeah. He says, that spooked me.
Ooh, preggers. Whoopsies.
And then she's like, you don't have to worry about it. I'm going to deal with this.
Okay.
You don't even have to worry about it.
That's crazy. You can do that in 1988.
And I mean,
crazy.
we saw that Greenwich Village movie. So
that's true. That's crazy. You could do that back then.
Yeah,
that's crazy. Crazy. You can do that.
It's crazy. You could do that back
crazy
then.
You can do that
Only back then.
Only back then. That's crazy.
And so she's like, I want you to go, and I want you out of my life. I don't love you. I want you out of here. And he's just like, come on, just let me explain. Let me apologize.
Hey, I know you're hurt, but let me explain it so you're not hurt because that's how feelings work.
Yeah, and so she just pushes him out of her apartment. Also, we see her apartment. She's like an artist. She's like a painter.
Yeah, she seems interesting and cool.
And it also appears like she doesn't have roommates.
Oh.
So she
Probably is rich. Or at least has some money. Oh.
So Tom Cruise goes and talks to Douglas. And
Douglas.
no, sorry, not Douglas. Sorry, I wrote older bartender, but now I realize it's his uncle.
Oh, right.
He goes and talks to his uncle.
I can't remember his name. Pat.
Pat. He goes to Pat's place, and he's like, "Hey, I'm gonna be a father," but he's like, "I'm gonna be a father." And at first, it's like you hear that and you're like, "Wow, that's really amazing." And then he explains, he's like, "She doesn't love me. She doesn't want anything to do with me. Like, she's gonna take care of it all herself." And Pat's like, well, "Sounds great. Sounds like everything's worked out." And he's like, "But I love her." And he's like, "Oh, well, that's a problem. You got to like deal with that. Like, sounds like it's a problem with you." And I'm like, "Wow, Pat's really got his shit down. He understands. Like, he's the only one telling Tom Cruise the right shit to do." So he's like, "I'm gonna go talk to Jordan." So he learns where Jordan lives, and he discovers Jordan is fucking loaded.
Oh, yeah?
Her family is so rich. Crazy
How come
rich.
all these people have money, man?
Well, and that's the thing is like, he's like, "You lied to me." He's like, you, and she's like, "Well, I saw that you were obsessed with money. I didn't think you would truly care about me if I told you about the money that I had, you know." And I mean, honestly, she was fucking right. So he goes up to try to talk to Jordan, but Jordan's not there. Her family lives in like the penthouse of this amazing building. So she talks to her dad instead. And I'm like, I'm putting myself in the dad's shoes. I'm like, fucking get the fuck out of my place. So he's like, he tries to like pay Tom Cruise to leave his daughter alone. But Tom Cruise refuses to take the money, and then Jordan walks in at this moment, and Tom Cruise says he's like, "I deserve a second chance. I deserve a second chance." And it's like, "No, you don't, you fucking piece of shit. Get the fuck out of here." And he's like, "I don't care about the money. Look, this is the money that your dad offered me, and I didn't take it." And it's like, "Cool, bro. You still fucking acted like a piece of shit."
Yeah.
And then he leaves because he's forced to. And he's walking around. He walks to the bar that Douglas owns, and he goes back and he's like begging for his job back. And Douglas is like, he's like, all right, hey, let's go into this
Manager's
boat.
office. Oh, boat.
He owns a boat. He's like,
Okay.
"Let's go in this boat I own. We're gonna hang out in there. It's like one of those. It's like a nice boat,
Sure.
like
yeah,
like
a yacht?
Like a yacht.
Okay.
He's like, "Let's go to this yacht I own. We're gonna hang out there. It's still like, you know, hooked to the dock, but it's docked. We're gonna hang out in there and just talk." And Tom Cruise has bought and brought that like whiskey bottle, the very expensive whiskey bottle, is like gonna, you know, is like the bet.
Yeah.
Right. So they go to the yacht, and he's like pouring like glasses, and he gives it to Douglas, and Douglas is like, "Here's the thing, man. I'm broke.
Oh.
I own this restaurant or this bar, but like all of the money is going into the bar. I'm not getting any of it. Like, it's all going back into the bar." He's like, "I realized I don't know anything. All I know is how to be a bartender, and that's it. I don't know how to run a business.
Yeah.
I don't know how to do anything. Like, and he's like, "Don't tell my wife. Don't tell anybody. Like, I am so poor, and I'm so messed up." And he just keeps like drinking this like super nice whiskey, and Tom Cruise.
Do you feel bad for Doug now?
No.
Yeah, still.
I
Fuck
fucking
that guy.
hate this
Yeah,
guy.
fuck that guy.
The only thing I felt was like, I hope I'm never like him. Like, I see him and I'm just like, Jesus Christ, this looks so fucking sad. Because it's also like, he's also just been such a piece of shit to like everyone he's ever
Pretty
met.
much,
You
yeah.
know, he's been putting on this facade basically. So then he's so fucking drunk, he almost like passes out basically. And Douglas's wife shows up, and his wife is like, "Hey," he's like, I need you to take me home. I need you to drive me back home." And Douglas is too messed up. So, "Tom Cruise, can you do it?" And Tom Cruise is like, "Sure."
He's
So-
definitely drunk too, right?
No, he's not that drunk. He's only had like one glass. And so he drives her home, and she starts to like come onto him.
Oh no.
Yeah, and she starts like kissing him, but then Tom Cruise pushes her away. And he's like, "I can't get with you because I can't get with my best friend's old lady." Which is like such a rude thing to say.
You
'cause,
really
like, they're
call her old lady?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Which is such a rude thing to say because like they're the same age.
Pretty much, yeah.
And so she's like, you're a coward. Get out of here. I hate you. You're the worst. And Tom Cruise walks back to the yacht and he gets in there and he sits down. He's like, hey, Douglas. And he looks over. Douglas has killed himself.
What?
He has slashed his wrists with the whiskey bottle. Blood everywhere. Douglas is dead.
What the fuck?
Douglas is stone dead. I don't know when. He probably fucking cut himself the minute they left.
Yeah.
He is absolutely. He's
I like how he's like, I need help. And then
dead.
he's like, no, actually, I'm just kidding. I'm going to take it easy out.
Dead. And then like we see the funeral. We see a scene where apparently Douglas wrote like a letter to like Tom Cruise, and it was just a letter saying like, hey, I was a fucking fraud. Don't ever. It's like a self-deprecating letter basically saying like all my wisdom was full of shit.
Man, I wish more toxic men would write that shit at the end when they died.
Who knows? They probably do, and then they're the people that idolize them never like show it to anybody.
Yeah, true.
So at this point, it's like everything's blown up for Tom Cruise. Like
Yeah.
he doesn't have any kind of safety net at this
he's
point.
got nothing now.
He's got nothing. And if only he had just stayed with Jordan.
Or he got with imagine if he actually did hook up with his wife.
That would have
'Cause
been.
then it wouldn't
That would have
matter.
worked out
It
too.
would have worked out.
It all would have worked out. But he's like at his like lowest rope. So what is he gonna do?
Okay.
How is this
So
movie
he
gonna
doesn't,
end?
he doesn't like his bar. What he's gonna do? He's gonna break up with everyone, and he's gonna go back to Pat's bar. And he's gonna work at his uncle's bar.
He's gonna work his way up and
Yeah,
become
yeah.
like a big success.
Uh-huh.
Do you think Jordan's gonna like show up at the bar and be like, "Hey, I heard you're a big success"?
No,
No.
I don't think so. I think this is a sad ending.
Sad ending.
Sad ending, but hopeful for like new beginnings or something like that.
That's
like this
so
is,
good.
Like this is the point of his life where he's like, I have grown up as a person. I've seen a man fucking kill himself.
Mm-hmm.
I have had many women hit on me. I'm just gonna get back to good old fashioned work. There's no shortcuts in life.
Tom Cruise breaks into the penthouse that Jordan lives at, locks the door behind the two of them, beats up the front doorman and the butler, locks the door so that he can talk and beg to Jordan to take him back. And at first, Jordan is like, no, I don't love you. I want you out of my life. And then the dad breaks the door down, and then Tom Cruise starts fucking wailing on
Her dad?
on the butler and the doorman.
Oh, okay.
And then the dad's like, get out of here, you monster. And then Jordan's like, no, Dad, I love him.
Oh my god.
I
What is
love
this
him.
movie?
And then the dad is like, if you leave with him, you are cut off. No money for you.
Oh, okay. Well,
And then Tom Cruise looks back at the dad, and Tom Cruise says, it didn't have to be this way, you know. And it's like, fuck
What does that
you.
mean?
Fuck you.
what does that mean?
Acting
at
like
all?
you've got the moral superiority high
It didn't
ground.
have to be this way.
Didn't have to be this way. And Tom Cruise is like, I've got a loan from my uncle. I'm going to open my own place. I want you to be there for me, Jordan. And Jordan's like, let's do this. So they have a wedding in his uncle's bar. They get married, and then they're like, I'll
This is
bet.
so stupid.
And then she's like, I'll bet you divorce me in 3 weeks. And he's like, probably.
What is this movie? This is such a flippant, like.
Flash forward.
Oh my god.
Tom Cruise has his own place, and it's called the Cocktails and
Dreams. Stupid name. Hope it goes under.
And his name is on the bar, and he does this awful thing where he makes cocktails and then jumps on the bar and recites poetry to everybody.
Like he did the cell block.
And he looks in the corner, and Jordan's still back there, and she's like 9 months pregnant, but she's still there watching. And he does this whole poetry thing about how he's like, if we have a daughter, she better be under control. But if we have a son, he better not be anything like me.
If her name is Negroni, she won't know me. I'm a poet.
And it's awful. And I just wrote down, why is this popular? Imagine like getting a cocktail from a place and this fucking guy jumps on the bar.
I feel like that's like the way to lose the most customer. Like I feel like that's a bad idea. Like a Nathan For You sketch.
Yeah, it really
feels
does
like
feel that way. And so then he's like, blah, 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 blah. And then she's like, hey, come down here. And he goes down and she's like, we're going to have twins. And he's like, twins? And then he's like, next round's on the house.
He bought a beer for everyone.
And the uncle's like, no, don't do that. And he's like, let's do it, baby. And that's the end of the movie.
What is the lesson of this movie? What is the thought of this movie?
The lesson is to never take lessons from people like Douglas, and don't be like Tom Cruise, I guess, basically.
Weird.
But I guess if you are like Tom Cruise, things just sort of work out for you anyway, you know? But yeah, he's a piece of shit. A lot of these guys are pieces of shit. Bad movie's bad.
Looking at the Wikipedia of this,
What's
Kelly
it say?
Lynch, the person who played Doug's wife, said the film was actually a really complicated story
Oh.
about the 80s and power, or money and power. And it was re-edited when they completely lost my character's backstory, her low self-esteem, who her father was, why she was the person she was. But
It all got cut, didn't it?
But it was obviously a really successful movie, if not as good as it could have been. She claimed that Disney reshot about a third of the film. And turned it
this
into
was a
flipping
Touchstone
bombs. It was
movie.
a Touchstone movie.
Yeah.
I had a really great time. Tom was fun to work with.
He is good in the movie. Like,
he's
he
very
actually
fun,
he does a
yeah.
really good job of acting in the movie. It's
he's
very
doing a
intense.
good job. It's just the script is just like, what are we doing?
Yeah, it's
here?
not a great
This movie was a huge hit, though.
It seems like the first third of the movie is a lot of fun.
$20 million budget. How much do you think it made?
I mean, my first instinct was 50 million, but I feel like that's not true. I'll just stick with my first instinct, $50 million.
171 million.
I was gonna say 100 too, but 171. That's even
171.
closer
That's
to
a
200.
lot. That's almost 200 million. That's
Jesus
a pretty good.
Christ.
That's a great return. I'm surprised people liked it. You know, but the thing is Tom Cruise was just coming up here.
Yeah, this was like his first movie. Like I said, this was like
it was not his first movie.
one of his first.
It was
movies.
one of his first ones. Because the thing is like it actually helped get financed when he got.
Oh, when he
casted.
got attached to it.
Yeah.
What was his first movie? We should watch for the podcast.
No, the first movie of Tom Cruise. I guess we could look that up right now. But I gotta say.
Yeah.
Tom Cruise says the film in 1992 was not a crowning jewel of his career.
Oh.
So he was.
Oh, he was in The Outsiders. Risky Business came before this.
Oh, Risky Business came.
Top Gun,
yeah,
Legend. Okay, I was absolutely fucking wrong. Yeah, like Color of Money, Top Gun, Legend, Risky Business, Outsiders. All these movies came before him.
Taps,
So
Endless Love. Yeah.
yeah, so there was big movies before this one.
There was definitely a few. Yeah,
Yeah.
I forget he was in Legend.
Yeah, man, he's the main
'cause
character.
Probably because there's a much more interesting character in that
The
movie.
devil.
The devil.
Yeah.
The straight up devil.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't
This
know.
movie was terrible.
It's
It
not
was
a
bad.
great movie. I thought it was interesting.
It was definitely interesting, and I felt like it was trying to go for a lot. Like I appreciate a movie that at least tries to go for it, even
Yeah.
if it's just kind of like
It is interesting.
doesn't really know what it is.
It's
and
interesting to hear that like Disney reshot 30% of the movie.
It
like,
does feel like very disjointed, and it doesn't
Yeah.
feel like it has a clear vision. It feels like a lot of it is all over the place.
I wonder what portions of this movie were reshot. Like, I wonder if that ending is like newly edited, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't
We'll
really know.
never know.
We'll never know. And you
Lost
know
the
what? I don't know
time.
if maybe people are really going to care about Cocktail because despite it being a big hit, I never heard of this movie. I don't think it really sits in the zeitgeist. No one's bringing it up being like, remember Tom Cruise in that horrible movie?
I
Like,
guess so.
you
Yeah.
know.
I don't know. I mean, I'm sure this movie brought Cocktails to a wider audience, but that's
I
all
think
we
that-
can really give
maybe
it
that
to.
was it. Maybe
Yeah.
that was it. They're like, drinking is cool.
Yeah.
If you put hard liquor with other fun stuff, it's neat.
I would like to see a remake of this movie that focuses more on how fun it is to be like a mixologist.
They really should because
I think that'd be a lot of
The
fun.
movie really kind of lost all of that, especially in your half.
Yeah.
I feel like there was
There was so
barely-
little aspects.
Well, even in my half, there wasn't really a talk about like the craft of mixology. It was just like the showmanship of mixology,
Right.
Which I think is an interesting take in some ways. Like you could read that as being like, it doesn't matter if you're good at the craft. It just
You just
matters
have
how
to-
showy you are, and that's how you
Right.
make a good business.
Right,
you know?
right.
That's
Which
how
is
you
true.
make money. That's how you get capital.
Right.
Which I think is what kind of it ended up being. But you know, in some ways, it also, you know, the beginning of the movie, he couldn't get a job because he didn't have the background for it.
Mm-hmm. You don't need a background here.
But you need a background. You just need to be very showy.
Right, exactly.
In the end.
You need to have good hand-eye coordination.
Yeah,
as
but
well
if you
to
want
spin those bottles.
Yeah, if you want a cool bar though, you gotta, you know, actually make good cocktails, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so.
Who knows? I wonder how long, because they like spin bottles around, they pour them for a while, and it's like, how long do you count for that? I'm sure there's a way to count it, but it's a lot.
Yeah. Do you guys like cocktails? Email us at emailtheotherpodcast.com.
Do you like tales about cock?
Yeah, find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We're also on Discord and Threads. And if you want to listen to our previous episodes, you can find them on any podcatching app. And while you're there, please leave a 5-star rating and review. We will read into the show no matter what it says, even if it is a bunch of ingredients and steps on how to make your favorite cocktail. Ethan, what is your favorite cocktail?
I'm feeling Jungle Bird recently. I love the good Jungle Bird.
You're a big like tiki drinker.
I like Campari too, which I know no one else I feel like likes except for me.
I don't think I'm a Campari guy.
No, you hate Campari.
Yeah, I like Sazeracs because they've got absinthe and whiskey. It's a
that's
very
that's
good
a
cocktail.
one. The official soundtrack single, The Beach Boys' Kokomoko, was commercially successful and has topped the charts in America, Australia, and Japan.
That was on Pet Sounds.
And it was nominated for a Grammy and a Golden Globe.
Jesus Christ.
That's wild. I did not know Kokomoko came from this.
I knew Kokomo came from this. Are you talking about Kokomo or Kokomoko?
Are those two different songs? I mean, Kokomo. Kokomo. Is there Kokomo? What the fuck? I just pronounced it wrong.
Good night, everybody. You're talking about Kokomoko. I was like, is that some weird other like
Kokomo.
Yeah, Kokomo. You were calling it Kokomoko this whole time.
Loco Moco, these nuts.